here. Today we're going to be doing sous vide cooking, which is a really great practical skill, a great way to preserve your food. And say like you like to do meal prep for the week, this is a great way to freeze your food and be able to cook it later. We have, as always, our chef Kyle, who's in a ridiculous chef hat today. But he thinks it's cool, so we're just gonna go with it. Kyle is our sustainability chef here on campus, so his main job role is to increase local, organic, fair trade products throughout all of our dining venues on campus by creating partnerships with vendors and local farmers, and also to do education and outreach like these cooking demos. Kyle's a very seasoned chef. He's worked for Wolfgang Puck, he's run nightclubs in Atlantic City, and now he's doing the same thing. Because he's married. All right, so I'll pass it on to Kyle.
All right. So sous vide. Has anybody ever cooked sous vide before? Anybody ever even heard the term before? Okay. So in the most basic sense, it's really simply cooking things in a water bath under a very controlled temperature. It's good for several different things. It's very predictable. So once you figure out how you like your fish cooked, you can set like your thermostat down to the degree. It's very difficult to overcook things. As Joanne said, if you have a vacuum sealer, it's really good that you can portion stuff, freeze it, pull it out in the morning, let it thaw out, and then just drop it in the water, and everything's ready to go fairly simply from that point on. But again, being such a controlled environment, things come out very consistent, and you don't really have to worry about like over-searing stuff. You can cook stuff for a long time without having to worry about it. Like if you have a roast or something that you wouldn't want to stick it in an oven all day while you're at work, with something like this, there's no flames to really worry about. You can just drop something in the morning when you get home. Again, like where it cooks at so much of a lower temperature, it really won't overcook. So the theory behind it is, if you're roasting something or you're cooking something in a pan, the oven or the pan is generally much hotter than you want the temperature of your food to be cooked at when it's finished. So with sous vide, you'd be cooking the food at that temperature. So if you like your steak cooked medium rare, you would set the water bath to 135 degrees, put your bag in the water. It would, depending on the size of the steak, it could take about an hour and a half. But what it'll do is it'll cook completely evenly from one side of the steak to the other. It will never, where you're not searing the outside, you're not cooking from the outside in, you're cooking very evenly. So again, it won't dry things out, especially where it's in a controlled environment in a bag. It can be very useful for certain things. So there's a few different ways that you can sous vide stuff at home. So I have, this is a sous vide circulator right here. What I'll show you is, this is specifically made for sous vide, and what it has inside of it is a small electrical element. And then if you can see on there, it has a small impeller at the bottom that just circulates the water. And this will keep the water temperature down to 0.2 of a degree. So we have.
Can you buy that at Williams-Sonoma or?
Williams-Sonoma, online, they're fairly inexpensive. This is one of the most popular ones. You can generally find them for about $120, $130 for this specific one. The nice thing about this is that there's an app for your iPhone or Android that goes with this one. So it actually has built-in recipes. And it's connected to Wi-Fi. So like you can literally just drop your bag in, hit the recipe look up the recipe on your phone, hit it, and it'll cook automatically. It automatically sets an alarm on your phone for when it's done. Um, but but you again, like so you can always do it in a pot on a burner, and a thermometer, just so that you can keep the temperature where you want it. The only thing I'll say, it's sometimes on a burner it is a little bit difficult to keep it consistent, especially if you have gas. It's a little more difficult just to keep a consistent temperature of the water. Or so also what I've actually even done at home, depending on what the temperature your water runs at in your house. I know my condo, like the water temperature will get up to almost 140 degrees. So I could actually cook a steak at that by simply running water out of the faucet. So if your water gets up to 115 degrees, you can cook fish, just simply by putting like a pot or something under the water that's consistently running, and that would probably take about 45 minutes. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to start with is some broccolini. The recipe on here has bok choy on it. We had some nice local broccolini that came in, so we decided just to switch that out. This recipe really will work for any green vegetable. And so what we're going to do with this one, simple Ziploc bags. So you don't need to have a vacuum sealer to do this. A Ziploc bag will be fine. The only thing I'll say is if you have like a couple paper clips or binder clips, they'll help, because with a Ziploc bag you don't really want to submerge the top of the bag because the heat will have that fail. So what I'm going to do is actually take a little bit of our broccolini. Just take that off. Trim the ends just a little bit, just the woody parts of that. We'll place that in the bag. Just about a tablespoon of olive oil to coat that. And that's another nice thing about this is cooking sous vide. You're really controlling the amount of oil, the amount of fat that you're putting into your cooking, and reducing that a lot, because you're not worried about like coating the pan or anything like that. I'm just going to put a little bit of salt and pepper, and then squeeze a tiny bit of lemon and stick that in there. So now we have that. And for this one, I'm going to put this in the pot. Now, if you're using a pot and you're using a Ziploc bag, what you want to do is actually leave it unzipped while you put the food in, and the water pressure will actually squeeze the air out for you. So if you place that in the water and then seal it, it'll get the air out of the bag for you. And then we'll just clip that onto the side of the bag. So that'll take about 8 to 10 minutes in there. Now, if you're cooking that to save cooking it for later, what you could do is take it out after that, put the whole bag in ice water, and then freeze it. So if you have a garden at home, it's also a very good way to save things that you might not be able to eat right then. So clear this off. So the next thing we're going to do is salmon. So here I just have a few pieces of salmon that I prepped up. I have one that I prepared ahead of time. This one I vacuum sealed, which if you do a lot of this really is the best way to do it, especially if you're going to prepare things ahead of time to freeze, because things vacuum sealed will freeze very well. You could take these and break them down into like single portion bags or four portions per bag, whatever you generally would cook, and freeze them just like that. So, yes.
When you buy frozen fish in the grocery store,
Yes.
it comes vacuum sealed. They always recommend that you open the vacuum seal and then defrost it.
Okay.
Is it possible for you, would you say, is there a special reason they tell you to do that, or could you defrost it in the bag, in the seals, and do like you're doing with this?
Yes, if you vacuum seal it yourself,
Yeah.
you absolutely could. I would have.
But if it's coming from the store like that, and they said defrost it outside the bag, or outside the ceiling, I'm just wondering.
I'm not sure. That's a new one for me. That could be because food safety reasons. I would assume from them,
Yeah.
just wanting whatever might be in that bag. You might not want to. It could also be the type of plastic in the bag that the bags they're using are made of.
Yeah.
What I'll say is, like, if you have like a Ziploc bag or a food saver bag, a vacuum seal bag, they're all made out of a polyethylene plastic. If you look at like plastic wrap and certain other things, they're generally a polypropylene chloro bag, which will impart different flavors onto food. Anything polyethylene won't. Polyethylene is always BPA free. So like plastic wrap and saran wrap and things like that, you wouldn't want to wrap things in that and then sous vide them, for the simple fact that you'll get some of that plastic flavor into the food, as well as they're not BPA free. But if you're vacuum sealing them yourself, you're perfectly fine defrosting them in the bag. And as you can see, actually the nice thing about this is I actually have like my herbs and a little pat of butter in there as well. So we're going to do the Ziploc bag for this one as well. So what I'm going to do is actually just take three portions of our salmon here. Again, a little bit of our olive oil, just a tablespoon or so. Then what you want to do is kind of rub it around so that it coats the fish, so that once they start cooking, they don't stick together. So with that, I have a couple sprigs of fresh tarragon that we're going to add to this. About half a sprig of fresh rosemary. And the nice thing about this is where everything's contained. You really do get a lot of flavor out of herbs and stuff when you use them. And then just do one little slice of lemon, and that'll come out in there. And then again, keep that open while you submerge it. Then close it. I have another clip here for this one. So a salmon like this, at 118 degrees, will only take about 20 to 30 minutes, which is nice. And the nice thing about this is, like I said, you can prep things up ahead of time. The cook time is a little bit longer than what you would traditionally cook a salmon, but there's not a whole lot of active time while you're actually cooking. All the cook time would generally be done ahead of time. It's all prep, so you can come home from work, throw this in the water bath, finish what else you need to do, come back in 20 or 30 minutes. And again, the nice thing is it's never going to, so if your water is set to 118 degrees, your fish is never going to cook past 118 degrees. It's never going to overcook. So it can be 30 minutes. You could come back an hour and a half later, 2 hours later, and it's not going to be overcooked. So, which is nice about that. All right, and other things, like I have some baby carrots here that we did. Again, just baby carrots, a little bit of olive oil, some salt and pepper, and one sprig of rosemary. And we can drop them in this one. So, again, fish I would generally cook around 118 to 125 degrees, depending on the type of fish. Steaks would be anywhere from 132 to 140, depending how you like them. Works really well for eggs. I cook most of my eggs in here. They cook you can cook a sunny side up egg in the shell. Just drop it in there about, I think, for a soft egg, it would be about 147 degrees. You get like a medium egg at about 154 degrees. And the nice thing about this is it actually gives you a very unique texture to the yolk. Because generally when you cook an egg, or even when you boil a hard-boiled egg or a soft-boiled egg, it's still cooking from the outside, and you're cooking the egg white before the heat ever even gets to the yolk. With these, you're cooking it consistently all the way through, so the yolk is cooking at the same time as the egg white in the shell. So it'll give you almost like a really creamy texture to the egg yolk. And they only take about an hour to go through as well. So, flip this. So if you can, you actually can't. What I'll do, and actually what I wanted to do right here, is I'm actually going to bring my burner out. I'm going to cook another piece of the salmon in a pan next to it. You guys can see that. That way, when we pull that salmon out, we can compare them. So, also the salmon that you were eating for lunch was also, I sous-vide that this morning. So if you know, what's that?
It's a big bag.
Yeah, so actually the bags I have just come on a roll. It's a 50-foot roll, and you can cut them to whatever size you need. So I just cut them to the side of the salmon. I left the skin on so that it would hold it together, and then I cooked them this morning. So
Question.
yes.
So you cook some salmon, you take it out. Can you cool it off and put it in the freezer? You say that?
You can. I wouldn't.
Okay.
Because then you have to bring it, like thaw it back out and cook it anyway. If you were gonna do that, I would just freeze it raw. And because again, there's no work in it at that point. You're literally just taking it out of the freezer and dropping it in the water, and coming back a half an hour later, 40 minutes later anyway. So if you can see, so I already have more oil in this pan than we put in any of the bags that we needed for the salmon. I have more oil for one piece of fish than I do on all three or four. So once we get that hot.
I have a question.
Yes.
If you did a steak, like a thick steak,
Yes.
and you had it perfect medium rare
Mhm.
throughout, and then you took it out, would you throw it on a hot pan
Yes.
to like
Yeah.
get some caramelization
So
or something there?
exactly. So that's exactly what you would do. You could do that two ways. You could sear it beforehand, so you could actually sear it, put it in the bag, and then cook it through, or you could cook it through and then sear it. Like you could even do the same thing with fish or anything. Yes, you can actually. Ken has actually been bugging me to sous vide him a whole chicken for about a month now, and it hasn't happened yet. So I don't think I'm going to get out of it with everything being set up today. So looks like I have. Yes. Ken read Marco Pierre White's book that I gave him earlier this summer for some summer reading, and said it's the best way to cook a chicken. So as you can see, like the main difference here is again our pan is really hot. We're cooking from the outside in, where this is cooking very evenly through from top to bottom. And believe it or not, this first piece of salmon feels like it's almost done. So that's only been about 10 minutes at this point. So, but again, so if the salmon had skin on it, I would definitely, you'd want to take it out of the bag after you cook it and sear that, just so that the skin gets nice and crispy to eat. But that would not be on there long enough to really dry out the rest of the
The
the meat.
return of the alarm, fire alarm.
Oh, we'll be. I haven't done that yet. Oh, all right. It's all right. If I set it off, we all know what it is. Okay. So there we go. We'll let that rest for a couple minutes. Again, cooking a piece of fish this way definitely is quicker. But again, with this we have no mess. It's consistent throughout the whole time. It really is. It brings it down to a scientific level where if you don't cook a whole lot, or if you're cooking things that you're not comfortable with, some people might not be comfortable with cooking fish. This almost makes it foolproof. if you find a recipe, find like a specific time and temperature to cook things at, there's really not a whole lot you can do to mess it up. So we've got that. Let me see this. So that does need a little bit more time. Let me check our greens, how these are doing. So these are going along well. Turn that up a little bit more.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
When you're testing it to see if it's ready, how are you able?
So the greens, I'm actually just feeling to see how tender they are. The salmon, again, like this will probably be
Getting it a feel to see.
yeah, this will be about 10 more minutes really before it's done. But I'm just feeling for the texture of it. But again, if you're following a recipe and you look at the times that it takes to cook, you really don't even need to worry about it. So it'll all be very consistent. So I'm gonna take this out. Put that there. Okay, so I'm going to pull this one out so we can see how this looks inside. So again, if you see, like instead of cooking in oil, we've actually cooked in all the juices that are inside the bag, as well as all the flavor from those herbs are actually coming out into the oil and the garlic and stuff and actually cooking into the fish rather than simply being coating onto it. So, cut that open. Okay. That's that. Now if you look at this, you can kind of see how it's cooked very evenly all the way through. And slice this open. And you can see like we're still really flaky and almost a little dried out on the outside of the fish, even when the fish on the inside is a little bit undercooked. So what I will do is actually have a plate here, this, and here. So if you want to pass this around, you can kind of go that way with that. You can see the difference in textures that you're gonna receive with cooking it sous vide. You're also gonna see how much more moist the piece of fish that comes out of the sous vide really is, because you're cooking all that liquid back into the fish rather than cooking it out.